Welcome, Construction Nation, to episode number 4. This is Sue Dyer, your host for the Construction Dream Team. Hey, Construction Nation. This episode had some sound quality issues on my side, but please listen to Jim as he lays all sorts of value bombs on us in this episode. Good morning, listeners. According to the Wall Street Journal, construction is ground zero for worker shortage. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says there's 150,000 unfilled construction jobs. AGC of America found that 73% of firms had a hard time finding qualified workers. Building a strong, cohesive, committed team has never been more important, and this seems to be very elusive for many people. And that's why I've invited our guest here today, Jim Pappas, one of my favorite people. I have watched Jim on several projects, and he is what I would call a true trusted leader. And so we've invited Jim to kind of share with us today what he does as a leader. But also, I have people come up to me often and say, Hensel Phelps always seems to have the same people. They keep their people for life. How the heck did they do that? So Jim's here to enlighten us a bit on that and share some secrets. And so Jim is the Vice President and District Manager of Hensel Phelps. He's agreed to share his secrets with us today. So welcome, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sue. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to help this process. Very excited about doing this and being here with you today.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to have you here. So tell us a little more about your journey in construction, kind of what brought you to where you are today.
Well, you bet. That's a great question, Sue. So I grew up in Chicago, out in the suburbs, and I loved architecture. I loved building things. When I went to college, they kind of geared me towards Purdue into civil engineering. I was pretty good at math and science. What I found, though, was I actually was at Purdue. I was co-oping for a civil engineering firm in downtown Chicago. And as I would walk the city, I marveled at the skyscrapers being built. And I felt like I knew how to design those buildings, but had no idea how to build them. And so I ended up making a change, transferred into architectural engineering with a emphasis in construction management, which brought me to Texas. And there I hired on with Hensel Phelps. From that point, I really fell in love. I was able to kind of get my hands dirty, really understand what it took to build a building, and have really traveled across the country. I've moved 9 times, met my wife in Colorado, had my son back in Houston, Texas, and have lived in 5 different states and really have learned, I think, a lot about construction, but also how we do it across this great country.
That sounds exciting. I do know that you have moved a bit, and I thought it was interesting that on the Hensel Phelps website, the motto is that you guys build iconic buildings. I thought that was so cool because what a cool vision is that you want to create the iconic buildings in the country, and that's certainly what I see you guys doing.
And that's almost like, yes, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go for it.
Well, no, what I was going to say there was, honestly, that is a big point, I think, to reach out in the fact that we do build iconic buildings. But if you talk to a Hensel Phelps person, I think they will be just as excited about the people they work with. And not to be overly dramatic in that way, but we obviously want to build great things. And that is what we do. But I think it's also about working with great people. That is what creates that energy to be able to go do that.
So we both know that construction can be a bit challenging. Some people think it's a war zone. And my life's mission is to teach people that it can be truly fun and exciting. And I feel just like you do. I absolutely love construction. I love building things. So tell us about your worst construction experience ever.
Oh, that is a challenging question, Sue, but I appreciate it. Thank you for bringing up those hard times. But again, I think for us to become better at what we do, you have to go through some hard times. And so With that, I think the hardest project I was ever a part of ended up being a great project, but it was a beachfront resort in Clearwater Beach, Florida. We were about, I think, 4 to 6 months from opening. And I got a call on a Saturday morning. I had actually was being transferred from Florida back to Texas at the time. I got a call on a Saturday morning that said there was a flood on level 8 of a combination hotel condo tower, and it had flooded all 8 levels down into the garage parking on the street level, and water was running out into the street. And to say there was heartbreak would be an understatement. Just the frustration, but also the sorrow on the team that they expressed. And the reason it was the hardest was just the ability to go ahead and complete that project. In the end, it became a great project, but I will tell you that for a 4 to 6 month period at that point, it was working 7 days a week, double shifts, pulling in craft from all around the state. But again, from a challenging standpoint, without question, that was my most challenging project I was ever a part of. We still did open on time, learned a lot of valuable lessons in the process. But without question, when you're months away from opening and you've got completed hotel rooms that have already been inspected, fully carpeted, punch listed, et cetera, and tested, that is painstaking to see 3 to 4 inches of standing water in a finished floor. It breaks your heart to see that. So that for sure was the, without question, again, worst might be the wrong term, but most challenging and construction project would definitely be that one.
Now, when I think about that, I can visually see this and thinking, oh my word. And so tell me at that point when you kind of that moment when you saw this, what was your reaction and how did you deal with your team? Because I think that may be what makes the difference in your approach.
Well, I appreciate that and appreciate that, Sue. One of the things I think is first as a leader to step back and take that information in. And as a leader, you're going to have your own personal take, be it frustration. Could we have prevented that? What's to blame? But again, that doesn't solve the problem. And so immediately it turns back to the situation at hand. We are where we are. Here's this water on different levels. And so what we did then at that point was to gather ourselves, make sure we contacted the owner to understand. The owner carried the builder's risk insurance. And so we obviously contacted those authorities to get them involved in the process. And then we basically assembled a team to do an assessment of where we were at and to develop a path forward. And that's where I think, when you talk about the idea of partnership and teamwork, that was one where instead of pointing fingers, because again, there were rumors of sabotage, there were rumors of somebody didn't do something correctly, we put that aside and focused on what the mission was, and that was to open on time. People had already had booked rooms, they had conventions booked, people had condominiums that needed to be closed upon as far as to open, for people to move in. And so really we gathered together with the owner, the insurance agent, our folks, the subcontractors, and developed a path forward. And so to me, I think when you look at that, it's developing a vision of what needs to happen and how different people can play a role to make that happen, to empower those people, to show them what they can do to make a difference.
That sounds so powerful because so often we go down the path of blame. And yeah, I always say blame never solved a problem in history, so it's not going to on the project either.
That is very, very true.
So Hensel Phelps, you've been there for quite a long time. And I do have people come up to me and they say, how does Hensel Phelps keep their people forever, for life, especially in this market? So give us some of your secrets.
Well, actually, obviously, Sue, I can't give you every secret. I'm just kidding. I will definitely. I would be very happy. That's right. It's time to spill the beans. No, you know me, Sue. I will be very, very blunt and honest. And we've talked about this before with other people that have come in and said, well, we're going to take your secrets. Well, again, it's not a secret. I really believe it's about doing the right thing. And if you say what the secret is, I think it's one of the things that we are founded upon as a company, which is employee ownership. We share the gains of this company at a level that other companies don't do. They might hire people and pay more on their paycheck, but they don't have as much invested in what the company does. And so, to me, we incentivize people in two different ways, and really that has to do with one is financial. That just has to do with being very open and honest with our employee owners about what we make as a company and how that money gets shared. But the ability to be a part of that ownership is what drives people to be a part of that greater purpose. The other thing, which really can't necessarily be replicated because it's pervasive across the entire company, which has to do with the idea of employee ownership, the culture that creates. When you're talking to somebody that's 3 or 4 years old with the company, they're already a part owner in the company. And so they already understand that their success is predicated upon the success of the people that they're training, right? It's not just about, hey, what's in it for me? But you know what? For me to get to the next level, I need to train my replacement. Therefore, I'm going to be judged upon what not only I do myself, but who else can I train to go do my job, really to go replicate that process. And that's something, again, you can talk about it, but to replicate is rather difficult. And I think what that does then is creates a culture. It creates a culture of ownership, of personal involvement. And I can tell you story after story that just make you so excited about what some of our people do out there in industry. And people come back to me and say, holy cow, where do you get these people? And that to me is what motivates me on a regular basis, saying, we've got a great thing. It's my job to keep it going. Exactly. That's what it's about.
That's really interesting because, I run into quite a few companies that are ESOPs, employee owned, and yet I've seen several this year go bankrupt. So you guys have taken that concept and created a culture, but there's got to be more to the culture. So let's drill down. So what are the stories of some of what people have done so we can better feel what the culture is like there?
I think the culture would be a couple different things. The culture is meaning it's a sense of responsibility. It's a sense of you get to the end of the day, and we hear that many of our competitors, if you will, well, you know what? Hey, we're not done today, but I need to go home. I think what you'll find is you can go there, and it might be after hours. Our people are going to be there. One small example was it was a particular project that we were on, and one of our young engineers was actually golfing with a senior level official with an airport. And come to find out, this young engineer did not know who this person was. But this executive came back later and expressed to us, holy cow, here's this young engineer, and this person 1 year with the company already understood it. Most gracious of a young man, very courteous, very dedicated, knew what that person was doing, and was all about the project and all about doing the right thing. And again, multiple stories that I could go on about, but it has to do, I think, with motivating people for knowing that they're doing more than just working for a paycheck. They're part of a bigger process. Again, more than just the building. The building is obviously very important, but it's important to the owner. For what reason? Okay, maybe if it's a hospital, makes great sense. Great. We can treat people. We can make people healthy. So if we can open on time, we can heal more people in a faster way. If it has to do with an airport, it's keeping people the ability to transport across the country in a time efficient way with their expectations and what they had anticipated. So to me, it's putting more behind the project than a paycheck and a time card and check the box, I did this inspection. It's the reason why that I think makes that difference. And again, having people that have a vested interest in the success, it's a win-win situation.
So it's the reason why. Can you drill down a little bit for us on maybe there's a way you onboard people or recruit people so that you're attracting the right people that you want?
Nope, that's a great question. We've actually gone to a process now of some pretty in-depth onboarding. We do it different across the country. Some districts are a full day. Some districts are 3 days to a week long. But again, it's more than what I look at as onboarding is um, a way to assimilate somebody to the culture of the company. But honestly, it really begins at the recruiting process. Our recruiting process for anybody, even if you're from the industry, but we get a lot of our hires from college, it has to do with the initial campus event. It has to do with a campus interview. We bring those folks out to our site. We take them to a job site. We take them to a social event to understand what they're about. We do presentations about what we're about. We look at that almost as a courting process. It's not just us choosing them, it's them choosing us. We're trying to get a read on people. So we'll actually have typically at least 5 senior level people interview every person that we hire. And we will ask them different questions. And that's to try and make a cultural fit on is that the right person. Then, like you said, we'll onboard that person. But then we go through a level of training and teaching with those people over the course of their career. We have various different trainings that we do. We have a leadership development initiative that we take our people through. We have an emerging leaders seminar that all of our 2.5 to 3.5-year-olds will attend. We have a women's leadership seminar that takes all of our females and bonds them together and allows them to have contacts across the country to expand their impact on our country or on our company, because of what the great things that they're doing. We have a large, it's called our leadership learning management system, our learning management system. That is something that we've developed over time. It's proprietary for us. It has 3 levels of types of training. There's one-on-one training. There's self-directed training. There's also classroom training. And these are all things that over time we've developed that really try and, in each of those, reinforce the culture that we have. So we're teaching 2 things at one time. We're teaching technical expertise, but we're also teaching things about our culture, things about our history. It's also developing relationships across district lines. And so if you get transferred from Northern California to Austin, Texas, you will probably have met somebody at a seminar and have a contact before you get there. If you go to Washington, D.C., you might already know somebody there. We also spend a lot of time between our districts transferring people on a temporary basis. When people have needs, we share that information openly. And what that does is kind of that cross-pollination helps share that culture amongst the different parts of the country at the same time. And again, what happens, you find, is those people then share stories about what they've done, where they've gone, and what they've learned. Again, in a big picture sense, reinforcing the culture of who they work for. Although we're a large company, it gives the sense of really being a small company.
How many employees do you guys have at this point?
Right now, Hensel Phelps has right around 2,400 salaried employees. We've got about 1,200 craft people. And so give or take, it changes a little bit, but yes, right around 2,400 salary, about 1,200 craft. So it's not massive. It's in that 3,600 range across the country. We have 8 different districts that are our regular construction type districts. And then we have a service group that does work after completion for construction. And then we have a development group that works on the front side to help us meet new clients and do the development side of projects.
All of this to me sort of stands out that you couldn't achieve any of this if you didn't have real visionary leadership. So tell me, what do you do to kind of bring somebody up as a leader?
Well, one of the things we have, and I may have just briefly mentioned it earlier, we developed a series of training. And again, we just don't do it through training, but one of the ways we do it is it's called our Leadership Development Initiative. This is for people that are typically about a 5-year plus employee with the company. And believe it or not, literally, I think over half of our people have been with the company for more than 5 years. It used to be 60%, but with the recent growth, it's dropped below that. But what we do within that, though, is we have some specific training that are really more soft skill based. It has to do with training on accountability, managing change, communicating effectively, the fundamentals of management, coaching and developing people, also having difficult conversations. And so this is something that we've learned to actually as a result of a survey that we started about 6 years ago. We started a nationwide survey. We do it every 2 years. We just completed our 3rd round. And what it does, we hire out a third party It used to be Human R. Now we do it through PwC Saratoga. And we do a survey with every employee, and we take that data, and you can do different analyses of that to understand where people at and where those needs are. And some of the lessons that have been learned from that are phenomenal as far as, again, many of us come up from an engineering background, and we are great to dot the I and cross the T and how do you solve a specific technical problem. But there's very little training in our industry about relationships with people. And so what we found ourselves is to really succeed, you have to know your people and you have to develop your people. And so that's where we've actually spent a majority of our time, I'd say over the last 5 to 6 years, which is, yes, still doing technical trainings. There's no let up on the technical side, but it's really increasing the level of the personal training and skill training that you really don't get in a lot of colleges, but obviously in an engineering curriculum, there's not really time for that type of training.
That sounds like quite a competitive advantage, actually, and creates cohesion amongst the entire organization when you have shared training. When I was studying at the Harvard negotiation program, that was one of the things that we used as a tool was shared training so that you have shared models, shared language, shared objectives. It's a very powerful tool for developing cohesion. So that's pretty smart. So,
Well, we try. Trust me.
so tell me a little bit about something. We're all about here on Construction Dream Team. We're here about actionable things our listeners can do tomorrow to start really learning from what you have been able to achieve at Hensel Phelps. So what is one thing that the listeners could do tomorrow that would help them begin to create a team and a culture like you guys have at Hensel Phelps so that they can build their dream team and keep their people? Because that's really going to be a constant demographical problem we have in the industry.
And Sue, that's a great question. Honestly, I could probably give like 10 to 15 answers, but I think if you look at that, if we were to narrow that down to one thing, on what's one thing that you could do, you could start doing today, in fact. You don't even have to wait till tomorrow. It is, do you know your people? Do you know the people that work for you? Do you know what motivates them? Do you listen to what they say? Many of you have probably heard this before, but people don't quit companies. They quit their manager. And so that was something that we started probably back in 2006 of looking at when we had some financial things going on was we did a quiz amongst all of our districts as to how well we knew our people and where they were at. Where are they at personally? Where are they at within the confines of the project? Because those two will run together. If you don't know enough about your people to know what's going on personally, then that's going to affect what happens at the job site. And so again, not trying to be too soft, if you will, but rather it's a matter of getting the best out of the people is oftentimes, or the person is doing what's best for them overall. So getting to know your people, where are they at in life? What are their needs? What motivates them? How can you communicate them to where they understand and can connect? And one of the things I always tell my managers in particular as an example is we review our people twice a year, top to bottom. We go over them in detail. How are they doing on their goals? How are they doing on their training? But also what I challenge our managers every time is, look, we want to take the C's and make them B's. We want to take the B's and make them A's. We want to take the A's and challenge them to the point that they are pushing their boss over and creating and taking that next opportunity. So again, but to do that, to me, the root cause starts of, do you know your people?
That sounds pretty awesome, actually. I'm thinking that there's a lot of people listening here who are probably thinking, I don't know a whole lot about some of my people. I better get out there and find out. And I think you have to know yourself as well and what you want.
Absolutely.
So with that, tell us a little bit about the best advice you've ever gotten in your life.
I would say the best advice that I've ever gotten was to be yourself, to continue to stay involved and be challenged. Don't try and to be something different, but always reach for more. hopefully, right, if you're hearing this, you're a motivated individual. You've got a group that you can lead and direct. At the same time, take the information that you've learned from different people, but then channel that into what works for you, because each of us are our own individual. I believe we're given certain gifts. And so I think tapping into those gifts, using them to the best of your ability, but don't lose sight of who you are. Don't try and be somebody that you're not. Be the best you that you can be. And obviously at the same time, being present, because what you find, it's a very busy industry. You can get distracted on many occasions for many different things, but wherever you are, you need to be there and be present to make a difference.
Sounds like great advice to me. And do you have a resource for our listeners?
I've got a couple resources. I think one that we've done, we have actually brought them on. They've done training for us across the country. They've led our senior leadership group through some serious training. It's a company that their motto is called Becoming Your Best. Rob and Steve Schallenberger are the principals there. We've actually done training within virtually all of our districts now for our senior staff. Actually, all the districts have had their senior staff trained. Some of the districts, including ours, have brought that down into whether it's down to the mid-level managers. I know that in the Pacific Northwest, we've trained everybody. But that is one resource. BecomingYourBest.com is a phenomenal way to analyze kind of where you're at, but also creating vision, whether it's for your company, creating a personal vision, creating a plan for what you're going to do, actionable plans with actionable items. That to me would be, I think, the best resource that we could assist with as far as referring you to them, as far as from a contact standpoint of a third-party group as opposed to just individual contact. I obviously am available. You can contact me via LinkedIn. I don't tweet. I don't do Instagram. I don't do Facebook intentionally. I get that information, enough of that at home, but I tend to keep my stuff work-based. There's plenty there that runs 24/7 as far as that in that way.
And in the show notes, we'll have information for how you can contact Rob, the Schallenbergers. So we'll make sure we have that in our show notes. And please give us some parting advice for the listeners, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay. I think one, if you were to call it a parting advice, I really believe from a leadership standpoint, it's about, we talked about it earlier, knowing your people. That would be step one. But the second one is empowering your people. There's something special about getting a group of people together, empowering them, and seeing what they can do together. You'll find that oftentimes in our different partnering sessions. And again, it's not even just from Sue, but it's to me, it's something to believe at the core is we can do more together as a group if we can be open and honest together to put the information out there. But that to me is one. And the other thing is don't lose hope when you might have an owner that is against it and they think it's a bunch of this or that. That's going to happen. My advice there is do the right thing all the time. Hopefully they will come around. But I do believe that doing the right thing, empowering your people, they knowing that they can believe in you will make a difference. So that would be something that I would want to impart upon you all.
Thank you so much, Jim, for being on our Construction Dream Team. You know, for me, it's a dream for people to be able to create the kinds of teams that you guys have had on any of the projects that we've had an opportunity to work with. And I so appreciate you taking time to be here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate what you do in the industry. What I like about you and about your vision is about what's possible in our industry and about what could be. I think that whole idea that we are not a commodity, that we are a group of people. We're not just a company. We're a large group of people, and with that is much potential and much responsibility. But to me, the potential is endless. So appreciate what you're doing, and you're very welcome. And I'm glad to be a part of this episode, and definitely here in whatever way we can support.
Construction Nation, dream teams don't just happen. They're built one step at a time. Why not send this episode to your team so they can help you? Jim gave us all sorts of great insights and information. The more people you have helping you, the faster you can build your construction dream team. You can't have your dream until you build your team. Please head on over to constructiondreamteam.com to sign up for our newsletter. And don't forget to subscribe in iTunes or on Stitcher. And of course, we'd love it if you would give us a 5-star rating so we can reach even more people. Construction Dream Team drops every Monday morning at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Times. So please join me next week when I will interview another industry leader or expert so you can learn how you can create your dream team. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll catch you next time.